Minister Abbas Araghchi says talks with the U.S. in Oman on nuclear disarmament was positive and it was a good beginning. The Iranian minister said the discussions were exclusively nuclear or related. His comments came against the backdrop of a U.S. military buildup in the Middle East in response to Iran's violent repression of anti-government protests last month, which human rights groups say claimed thousands of lives. In recent weeks, President Donald Trump has threatened to bomb Iran if it does not reach a deal on its nuclear weapons. Iran has vowed to respond to any attack with force, threatening to strike American military assets in the Middle East and Israel. Friday's discussions were mediated by Oman's foreign minister. For Iran's embattled leaders, this could mean a chance to avert U.S. military action that could further destabilize the regime. Both sides have agreed to continue negotiations. Now, for a deeper analysis of this development, a UK-based Nigerian and a global affairs analyst, Festus Tokumbo, joins me here in the studio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Festus, we're talking Iran and the U.S. volatile bromance, even as both sides tentatively engage in high-stakes diplomacy. What do you think was the outcome of the Friday Oman talks between both nations that has opened the path to a seemingly promising beginning?
Thank you. Since the Iran and Israel 11-day war in 2025, this is the first time that the U.S. officials and the Iran officials will be meeting physically. Since 2015, Iran has been under immense pressure from the Western government to stop its nuclear program. Then President Obama was actually using the soft power, but that has not produced the kind of result they want. And since President Trump came on board 2 years ago, Trump's foreign policy is different from Obama's or the Biden. Trump believes in hard power. He doesn't believe in soft power. He believes in coercive diplomacy. It's about imperialistic. And after the 11-day war last year, the U.S. conducted bombing of Iran nuclear site. After Israel has killed many of the Iran nuclear scientists. And the question is, if after 6 months that Iran was bombed, and the U.S. is not putting pressure on Iran to come to the negotiation table. So there are two scenarios that can be predicted. It's either that the first attack was not as successful as it was claimed, because there are reports that Iran have moved their Iranian out of the nuclear site. Or it is either because Iran maybe is weak and they operate from the operational weakness to bring Iran come to the table.
I was going to ask, do you think that Iran may be negotiating from a place of weakness?
Because of the
sanctions
and the domestic issues that happened in the past few weeks. So it may mean that the U.S. is using the opportunity to bring Iran comes to the table to negotiate. In my opinion, I think Iran has no option to come to the table because Iran nuclear ambition is not supported by any actors, not within the Middle East. Some of the Middle East countries are not interested in Iran becoming a nuclear armed state because they threat to global security. Apart from the Western government, even the Iran so-called allies like Russia and China, they are not interested in Iran becoming a nuclear armed state. Though they may be supplying Iran with anti-missile defenses, to build up its military, but they are not actually interested in Iran becoming a nuclear armed state because everyone perceives that it is a threat to global security. Basically because of Iran is the world's largest sponsors of non-state actors. And
Iran has also said that the talks are strictly nuclear. What do you think?
But the U.S. are giving terms. It's not about nuclear. They are also talking about ballistic missiles, about nuclear, and they are also talking that Iran should stop supporting many of those non-state actors like Houthis in Yemen, like Hezbollah militants in Iraq, like Atomic Tiger in Sri Lanka, or the Islamic State in Russia. But Iran believes that ballistic missiles and its support for the non-state actors is part of its sovereignty provisions. So it's trying to liken it to some encroachments on our sovereignty because the Iran means of defending itself is through missiles. Many of those non-state actors. So that's the main obstacles against the peace process.
So in your opinion, what would Iran be willing to give up in return for meaningful relief from sanctions?
One, Iran has agreed to stop the production of uranium. I mean, in the first negotiation between the U.S., Trump government administration and Iran before the Iran and Israel war last year, Iran agreed to move many of those uranium to a third-party country. Iran agreed for international consortium to manage many of those facilities like the International Energy Agency. But Iran is not willing to compromise on its support for the non-state actors for ballistic missiles. But I believe, from my opinion, Iran has no option than to come to the negotiation table because there are too much pressure from the countries in the Middle East, and that's why it's most of them actually involving in the negotiation. The next round of negotiation is taking place in Turkey next week. Oman will be there, UAE will be there, Qatar will be there, Saudi Arabia, even Turkey. So the motive is to put Iran to negotiation because everybody knows that Trump is an action-oriented president. When he sees something, he has been doing it. It's not like the Biden administration or the Obama's administration.
Talking negotiation, why is Oman once again playing mediator? And what does that say about the state of U.S.-Iran diplomacy?
Oman is a trusted fellow to both Iran and the U.S. And I think there are other countries, and Oman is not a nuclear, the American military is not in Oman. Like, if you check the Iran neighbors like Bahrain, like, Qatar, there are U.S. military in those countries. So Iran will not want many of those countries to play intermediary role. So they believe in Oman. I think the only option the Iran has is to negotiate, as I said earlier on. And I think Iran is going to compromise on many of those interests to ensure that, to prevent the U.S. military attack, because the U.S. has already moved many of their military operations to the Indian Pacific Oceans.
Let's talk about how much do you think the current U.S. military buildup in Iran undermines the credibility of diplomacy? What do you think?
Yeah, I think U.S. is playing both approach of using, coercive diplomacy and hard power to achieve what they actually want from Iran. They may actually be moving those military to bring Iran comes to negotiation. And the U.S. has a very good relationship with many of the countries in the Middle East, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar. They try to maintain relationship with Turkey as well. So they are actually depending on those countries to make Iran comes to the table and agree many of the terms of the agreement.
And do you think the U.S. can realistically separate nuclear negotiations from Iran's role in regional conflicts?
It is very, in the case of nuclear, it can be possible to stop Iran from producing nuclear, but that ballistic missile is what I think Iran is not even to give up on producing ballistic missiles or supporting non-state actors, because the only way it defends itself is through by launching missiles. Many times Iran will be fighting with Israel. Iran launch missiles. They launch missiles from Iran to Israel. So they believe that the only means of defending our national sovereignty is through missiles. And that's why it insisted on that it cannot act the production of ballistics.
But does the involvement of figures close to President Donald Trump help break the deadlock or harden mistrust?
Yeah, I think some of the actors that are involved with these negotiations are trusted to both Iran and are trusted to both the US. So I think they are going to reach an agreement, because Iran does not have option not to come to negotiate and prevent US military attack. Because if they go into if you go into to attack Iran, Trump government is not like the previous administration, when the US invaded Iraq in 1991, or when they invaded Afghanistan in 2001, where they stayed there for many years. Trump goes there and achieved his objective and came out of the country like he did in Venezuela, where he removed Maduro. So if Trump is going to Iran, they are going to remove the supreme leader. That should be the main target. Trump does not believe in staying in the country and spend so much money, American resources. So Iran has no option. He has to, he has to negotiate, accept many of the agreement.
So let's talk about if this fails, how would the talks affect regional stability if they fail?
Because when you look at the Middle East GDP, it's about $5.5 trillion economy. Many of those countries are central planned economies, and many of them, they don't believe in militaries, they believe in trade, like Saudi Arabia, like the UAE, Qatar, and many of them are diversifying their economies. So that's why they are actively involving in this negotiation to prevent an outbreak of war, because it will destabilize the region, and also on the global economy, it's going to make little, oil shock. The oil prices might be rising, oil prices, energy costs, because Iran waters 20% of trade, 20 of shipping lines for gas is through Iran waters. Iran may disrupt those movements of ship, which will make the energy price to go up. It can actually lead to, on the global scale, it can lead to inflationary pressure, because when there's too much, when the energy price goes up, it can create inflation in the US. And when there's inflation, the US Federal Reserve will always adjust the interest rate to address the inflation. And that will have cumulative effect on many countries in the world, especially those countries that are indebted to the US, even like in Nigeria, because most of our loans are from the US, from IMF and the World Bank. So we might be spending so much on debt services. So that is why everybody wants this agreement to bring about a meaningful outcome.
Now, at the deepest level, are these negotiations about avoiding war or simply managing it?
It's both.
Explain what you mean.
You can avoid the war, you can manage, because Iran is a very aggressive, I'm sorry to use the term, Iran is a very aggressive nation, and that is why nobody wants Iran to become a nuclear armed state, because the problem we are facing in the world now is that most of the non-state actors are contending with national government on the monopoly use of violence on their various territories, and Iran has huge influence on this country. Should Iran possess the arm, the only option we have is to negotiate with Iran, like the case with North Korea. So, for the US, for those Middle East countries that are involved, they want to manage the conflict to prevent the outbreak of major war in the Middle East. For the US, it's about stopping Iran from pursuing its nuclear ambition.
This is a good place to rest it. Thank you so much for
thank you very much.
Your time. UK-based Nigerian and the Global Affairs Analyst Festus Tukumbo, thank you very kindly for finding the time to be here this afternoon.